Hello there. In this video, we're going to be going over how you can brute force a code lock on heists that have them. We'll go over how to do so, the cost in terms of time, and on which heist you might find it easier to brute force the code rather than doing objectives. First off, what do we actually mean by brute forcing the code? Brute forcing the code refers to trying every single possible combination in order to just guess our way to the code. While this might sound somewhat daunting, in Payday, due to the fact that we already know what numbers the code is made up of, with the help of the fingerprints, it actually massively lessened the number of possibilities to just 14 if there are two numbers making up the code, 36 possibilities if there are three numbers, and 24 possibilities if it is made up of four numbers. So as you can see, due to us knowing the fingerprints, knowing which numbers the code is made up of, it's actually very few possibilities, just 14 to 36. And that makes brute forcing the code viable. And in terms of brute forcing the code, it is incredibly easy to do it yourself. We just approach the code pad, we take a look at what numbers have fingerprints on them, and then we use these numbers to figure out the code. Now, to make it a little bit easier on yourself, I have linked a tool or a web page in the description where you can input what numbers have fingerprints on them, and that page in return will tell you what the possible codes are, and then you can just try them in order. Makes it a lot easier to get this done. Now, there are currently 5 heists in the game's board in Codelocks. No Rest for the Wicked, Dirty Eyes, Rocket Cradle, Golden Shark, and Touch the Sky. I'll be talking a little bit about which heists I'd recommend brute forcing on, and which you kind of just want to do normally in just a second. If we're talking from a solo perspective, I'd argue that the only heists worth brute forcing are going to be No Rest for the Wicked and Touch the Sky. And for a team with 2 or more players, you could add Golden Shark. The reason for this is actually incredibly simple. We'll be going over them in order. So let's just start with No Rest for the Wicked. So in No Rest for the Wicked, after we get into the safe room, we are required to get the manager to scan his eyes. But in reality, we can actually start putting in the codes there. Now, getting the manager, particularly in overkill difficulty from the 2nd floor, can be a bit of a pain in the butt. And if we consider that the code logs for Rest of the Wicked only takes 10 seconds to reset, the reset times are kind of different for every heist. 10 seconds to reset, with 36 combinations that take around 6 minutes. Of course, we need to add a couple of seconds to each attempt, just for you putting in numbers. So let's say it takes you 7 to 8 minutes with 36 combinations at the most. That's going to be the longest you'll be spending brute forcing the code. On average, this is going to be a far smaller number, particularly if you take into consideration that 14 attempts, 10 seconds per attempt is 2 minutes 20 seconds. Again, just add another 20 seconds. So with 2 numbers, the most you'd be at 240, and with 4 numbers, it'd be about 4 minutes. But this is the longest. On average, though, you're going to end up with half of these numbers. So let's say that for the 2 numbers, you're probably going to end up with around 60 to 70 seconds, 70 or 80, but let's be generous here on average. For the 4 numbers making up the code, it's going to take you a little bit over 2 minutes. And for 3 numbers making up the code, you'd spend around 3.5 minutes getting the codes on average. So you can either go up and get the manager, pull him back down, go up, get the code again, or we can just brute force, which on average will be pretty quick, just 2 to 3 minutes. And again, you could have longer ones, but that is 7 minutes tops. And the second benefit of doing it like this is that we will have no need to mask up. So we can just walk out the front door with our bags, and that makes extract also a lot quicker. For Touch the Sky, the second heist that I would recommend brute forcing on, it's a little bit different. The cooldown there is twice as long, meaning that we spend upwards to 14 or so minutes if we are really unlucky with a 36 combo. But the reason why I'd recommend brute forcing it there is straight up because you can actually get around Mason. If you do the heist normally, you are at one point going to need to get Mason into the panic room. By brute forcing the heist, you can actually skip Mason altogether and just get into the vault, take the SSD, bring it over, and then get out. So as long as you're not planning on using Mason for anything, brute forcing can be rather reliable in just getting that done. And particularly in overkill difficulty, it can be very beneficial to do so with the amount of guards and, other elements being annoying. But again, that is mostly an overkill difficulty thing. Now, as I said, for Golden Shark, I'd recommend, as I said, brute forcing the code if you are more than, well, 2 or more. The reason for this is fairly simple. The code is gained by getting into the server room, then the IT room, then back to the server room. Doesn't take too long, but again, the code cooldown here is also fairly long at 20 seconds. So you can understand why I don't really recommend it if you're doing it solo. For Dirty Eyes, we don't really want to brute force the code log because it's down into the basement. Basement, we need 2 things. We want to get the power off, and the codes are fairly easy to get anyways on Dirty Eyes. And also, we do want to get down there quick if we want to catch the manager. Manager will leave. Brute forcing the code could take longer than the time we have for the manager to stay, which could, of course, negatively affect your heist. Now, on Rock the Cradle, it's kind of the same deal as Dirty Eyes. The code is fairly easy to get. It's always in the accounts office. The vault, you can, brute force if you want to, but honestly, I'd recommend just getting in the accounts office, get the crypto wallet while you're at it. And as I said, the only really heist I'd recommend you brute force on is probably just No Rest for the Wicked. And as I said, touch the sky if you feel the need. But brute forcing can be a good tool if you feel you're stuck. It'll make your life a little bit easier. But that is my quick guide on this. Hope you have enjoyed. And if you have any, additional info, please add it in the comments. I would be very grateful. And if you've enjoyed this guide, learned something, please like and subscribe, as it helps me out a ton. And I'll be having more Payday content, guides, heist videos coming out in the future. So keep your eyes out for those. Bye bye.